Your next grocery trip is about to hit different, and not in a good way. While you're debating between name brand and generic cereal, 8 specific items in your cart are silently preparing to demolish your budget. We're not talking about luxury items here. These are everyday essentials that millions of families depend on, and their prices are about to go absolutely ballistic. The USDA just dropped their latest predictions, and frankly, they're terrifying. Food prices are climbing nearly 3% by year's end, but here's the kicker: that's not the whole story. Behind that seemingly modest number lies a brutal reality. Certain products are experiencing price explosions that make your head spin. I'm talking about items that have become more expensive than premium beef, and one of them will literally make your jaw drop. Today, I'm breaking down the 8 grocery items that are about to financially devastate unprepared shoppers. These aren't random price bumps. They're systematic shifts that smart consumers need to understand before their next store visit. Let's dive deep into this grocery apocalypse. Number 1. Eggs, the breakfast betrayal. Let's start with the most shocking betrayal of all. Eggs. Yes, eggs. Those humble protein powerhouses that used to be your reliable, affordable breakfast staple have turned into liquid gold, and the situation is getting worse by the week. Here's the mind-blowing reality. In many locations across America, a dozen eggs now cost more than a pound of ground beef. Let that marinate for a moment. The food item our grandparents bought without a second thought is now a luxury purchase that requires actual budgeting. The USDA just revised their projections upward. Again, egg prices have exploded over 50% compared to last April, and they're predicting another 14% increase, up from their previous 3.4% estimate just months ago. That's not a typo. We're looking at a catastrophic price spiral that shows no signs of stopping. The culprit? Bird flu, or more specifically, highly pathogenic avian influenza, HPAI. This isn't your garden variety outbreak. Experts are calling this potentially the worst avian flu crisis in recorded history. Millions of egg-laying hens have either succumbed to the disease or been preemptively culled to prevent spread. When your supply chain loses millions of birds, basic economics kicks in with brutal efficiency. But here's where it gets controversial. Food watchdog groups are raising serious questions about whether major egg producers are exploiting this crisis for excessive profits. A 2025 report from Food and Water Watch suggests some companies might be inflating prices beyond what the actual supply shortage justifies. While farms deal with legitimate bird flu impacts, shareholders might be benefiting from artificially inflated margins. What does this mean for your family? That $1.99 dozen you remember is now pushing $5, $6, even $7 in some markets. Your weekend breakfast routine just became a luxury experience. Parents are literally calculating the cost per omelet before cooking for their kids. Here's your survival strategy. Learn to freeze eggs properly. Crack them into ice cube trays, scramble, and freeze. You'll have protein reserves when prices spike even higher. Also, if you've ever considered backyard chickens, this crisis makes a compelling case for poultry self-sufficiency. Number 2. Beef, the American dream turned nightmare. Nothing symbolizes American abundance quite like affordable beef, but that symbol is crumbling before our eyes. We're staring down a predicted 6.6% beef price increase in 2025, and industry insiders are warning that number might be conservative. The statistics are genuinely frightening. U.S. cattle inventory has shrunk to levels not seen since 1951. We're talking about Harry Truman-era scarcity in a modern economy. This isn't a temporary supply hiccup. This represents decades of systemic problems finally coming home to roost. Here's a story that perfectly captures this crisis. A veteran cattle rancher recently reminisced about selling his Grand Champion steer for 55 cents per pound in his early days. Adjusted for inflation, that should be around $1.50 today. Instead, cattle are trading at over $3 per pound wholesale. That's not inflation, that's economic system breakdown. The ripple effects are already devastating family dinner tables. Ground beef that cost $4 per pound last year is approaching $7 to $8 in many markets. Want to grill burgers for the 4th of July? Better start a separate savings account. That family barbecue that used to cost $30 for meat now requires $50 to $60, and that's before you buy buns, sides, or drinks. Even corporate giants are panicking. Wendy's CEO told investors that beef costs are their single largest expense driver this year. When billion-dollar chains with massive purchasing power are struggling, individual families don't stand a chance. The underlying causes run deep. Years of drought, skyrocketing grain prices, and crushing interest rates have made cattle farming economically unsustainable for many ranchers. Some have abandoned the business entirely, while others have drastically reduced herd sizes just to survive. This creates a vicious cycle where high prices prevent production expansion, keeping supply tight and prices elevated. Your Sunday pot roast tradition? It might become a monthly luxury instead of a weekly staple. Taco Tuesday could become Ground Turkey Tuesday by necessity, not choice. The American dinner table is undergoing a forced transformation that nobody voted for. Number 3. Coffee. Your morning ritual under attack. For millions of Americans, coffee isn't just a beverage. It's a daily necessity that makes civilization possible. That sacred morning ritual is about to become an expensive luxury that challenges your budget priorities. Coffee prices have shattered every historical record, blasting past $3.60 per pound with no ceiling in sight. We're witnessing unprecedented price levels that make your favorite bag of Folgers a significant household expense. That 12-ounce bag you grabbed for $12 last January? The identical product now costs over $14, and that's just the beginning. Behind these crushing numbers lies a human tragedy that's unfolding in coffee-growing regions worldwide. Climate change isn't an abstract future threat for coffee farmers. It's an immediate existential crisis destroying their livelihoods right now. Brazil, which supplies much of our coffee, is experiencing droughts that last months longer than historical norms. Vietnam, another major supplier, is getting hammered by floods that wipe out entire crop seasons. Coffee farmers are caught in an impossible situation. They don't know whether to prepare for drought or flooding because weather patterns have become completely unpredictable. I recently read about a Colombian farmer who's been growing coffee for 3 decades. He said he's never seen anything like current conditions. His trees are dying, his neighbors are abandoning their farms for cities, and the coffee that does survive produces beans of inferior quality because the plants are so stressed. This isn't a temporary crisis that resolves next season. Climate scientists warn that these extreme weather patterns represent the new normal for coffee-growing regions. When you're staring at that $20 bag of coffee next month, remember that price reflects entire ecosystems being disrupted by climate chaos. For regular coffee drinkers, this translates into an extra $200 to $300 annually just to maintain your caffeine habit. That's a car payment for some families, a week's worth of groceries for others. Your morning cup of joe is becoming a luxury item whether you like it or not. Number 4, imported foods. The hidden tax on your cart. Here's where things get complicated, and most shoppers are completely unprepared for what's coming. Tariff policies are about to hit your grocery budget in ways you haven't considered, and the impact goes far beyond obvious imported items. The Yale Budget Lab recently released research showing current tariff rates will push food prices up 2.6% in the short term, but that's just the opening act. As businesses and consumers scramble for alternatives, they predict prices could remain 3% higher permanently. That's on top of existing inflation pressures. You might think this doesn't affect you because you shop at regular grocery stores, not specialty import shops. Wrong. You absolutely buy imported foods, and you probably don't realize how much of your cart comes from other countries. Take bananas, one of America's most popular fruits. Most come from Guatemala, and they just got hit with a 10% tariff. That's 4 cents more per case passed directly to consumers. Doesn't sound like much until you realize families buy bananas constantly for school lunches, smoothies, and snacks. Those pennies add up to significant annual increases. The ripple effects are already starting. A grocery executive who services 700 independent stores across 8 states told reporters that suppliers are sending price increase notices right now. This isn't future speculation, it's happening today. Specialty cheeses are getting absolutely demolished. That Parmigiano Reggiano from Italy, French Brie, Dutch Gouda, they're all facing tariff hits that transform them from occasional treats into luxury items only wealthy families can afford regularly. When did a decent block of cheese start requiring budget planning? Nuts are experiencing some of the most severe increases. Cashews, pecans, and macadamias were already pricey, but they represented healthy snack options parents felt good about. Now even those nutritious choices are being priced out of reach for middle-class families. Here's the strategic nightmare. Your shopping habits are being forced to evolve in real time. You're reading labels to check countries of origin, comparing domestic alternatives that might taste inferior, and doing mental math in every aisle. A simple grocery run has become a complex navigation exercise around international trade policy. Number 5. Poultry, the affordable protein myth. Chicken was supposed to be the affordable protein that saved us when beef became too expensive. That safety net just disappeared, and families are discovering there's no cheap protein left in the meat case. Poultry prices are predicted to jump another 2.1% in 2025, building on April's 2.4% increase from the previous year. Those back-to-back increases represent a fundamental shift in protein economics that's catching families off guard. The real-world impact is staggering. Whole chickens that used to feed a family of 4 for $8 to $9 are now costing $12 to $15. Chicken breasts, once the budget-friendly option, are hitting $6 to $7 per pound. Wings, which used to be throwaway bar food, now carry premium pricing. The irony is brutal. Strong demand for chicken exists precisely because other proteins became unaffordable. People can't afford beef, so they switch to chicken. But when everyone makes that switch simultaneously, chicken prices skyrocket too. It's a domino effect where every affordable option disappears in sequence. One neighbor spent $42 on chicken last week for her family, more than she used to spend on a nice steak dinner. She stood in the grocery aisle for 10 minutes thinking there had to be a pricing error. There wasn't. That's the new reality. Small restaurants are getting crushed. A local diner owner told me his chicken sandwich went from costing $2 to make to almost $4. He either raises menu prices and loses customers, or absorbs the hit and risks bankruptcy. These aren't abstract economic forces, they're destroying real businesses and livelihoods. The underlying causes create a perfect storm. Feed costs, corn and soybeans, are through the roof, energy costs for heating chicken houses are skyrocketing, processing plants face labor shortages, and transportation expenses keep climbing. Every link in the supply chain is failing simultaneously. Number 6. Sugar and sweets, the sweet apocalypse. Your sweet tooth is about to become an expensive habit, and this crisis extends far beyond obvious candy and desserts. Sugar has been identified as a key driver of current food inflation, and the implications are more far-reaching than most people realize. Major candy manufacturers like Mondelez, the company behind Oreos and Toblerone, are signaling massive price increases because they can't absorb crushing ingredient costs anymore. When billion-dollar companies start sweating, you know things are bad. But here's the hidden impact. Sugar is in absolutely everything. Your morning cereal, barbecue sauce, granola bars, even bread. They're all getting hit. That 5-pound bag of basic white sugar that cost $3 last year is now pushing $6 to $7. I literally stared at it in the store thinking there had to be a mistake. The psychological impact is profound. Baking cookies with kids used to be a simple, cheap family activity. Now you're doing mental math in the baking aisle. Flour's up, butter's up, sugar's up, even vanilla extract costs more. A homemade birthday cake has become a legitimate budget decision. When did making desserts at home become more expensive than buying them from a bakery? The economics have completely flipped, forcing families to rethink basic traditions and celebrations. Consumer behavior is shifting dramatically. People are waiting for sales, buying tiny 1-pound bags instead of bulk purchases, and literally rationing sugar, something our grandparents bought in 20-pound sacks without thinking twice. The corporate response is telling. Companies are warning about consumer resistance to higher prices while raising them anyway. They're essentially saying, yeah, people will be angry, but we're doing it regardless. That's not market dynamics. That's price-setting power in action. Number 7. Olive oil, liquid gold reality. Olive oil has transitioned from cooking staple to luxury item so quickly that it's giving shoppers whiplash. We're looking at record highs over €9 per kilogram, translating to $20 to $25 for a decent-sized bottle. What happened to this basic cooking ingredient? The entire Mediterranean region, where virtually all quality olive oil originates, is experiencing devastating droughts. Spain alone produces about half the world's olive oil, and they're dealing with some of the worst weather conditions in decades. Olive trees that have grown for generations are withering because there's literally no rain. This isn't just about switching to vegetable oil and moving on. For people who actually love cooking, those who make their own salad dressings, properly saute vegetables, or drizzle good olive oil over fresh tomatoes, this represents a fundamental change in how they eat and cook. The price spike is so severe that basic cooking routines are becoming luxury experiences. My neighbor Maria told me a heartbreaking story about trying to make her Italian grandmother's pasta recipe, one of those precious family dishes passed down through generations. She needed good olive oil for authentic sauce, grabbed her usual brand she'd been loyal to for 15 years, and it cost $22. She stood in that aisle feeling personally attacked by inflation. This wasn't just about money, it was about maintaining family traditions and cultural connections through food. Now those connections are becoming luxuries only wealthy people can afford. The most frightening aspect is permanence. Experts warn that drought conditions in Mediterranean growing regions aren't temporary disruptions. Climate change is making this the new normal. Those carefree days of grabbing olive oil without checking prices are officially over. Number 8. Specialty nuts, the healthy snack squeeze. The final item on our budget-busting list hits families trying to make healthy choices. Specialty nuts are experiencing some of the most dramatic price increases in the entire grocery store. Cashews, almonds, pecans, and macadamias were already pricey, but they represented one of those healthy snack options parents felt good about giving their kids. They're protein-rich, satisfying, and don't contain artificial additives. Now, even these nutritious choices are being priced out of reach. A small bag of cashews that used to cost $5 to $6 is now pushing $8 to $10. When you're trying to pack healthy school lunches or provide nutritious snacks, these increases add up quickly. Parents are literally choosing between their kids having healthy options or staying within grocery budgets. The global supply chain for nuts is incredibly complex and vulnerable. Many varieties come from specific regions with ideal growing conditions, and those regions are experiencing climate disruptions, political instability, and currency fluctuations that all impact final prices. Processing and packaging costs have skyrocketed due to energy expenses and labor shortages. Transportation costs are higher than ever. Even storage and warehousing expenses have increased dramatically. Every step from tree to shelf involves higher costs. The health implications are concerning. As nutritious snack options become luxury items, families are forced toward cheaper, more processed alternatives. This isn't just about individual family budgets. It's about broader public health consequences when healthy foods become unaffordable for middle-class households. I'm not leaving you hanging with doom and gloom. There are legitimate strategies working for smart shoppers right now. Brand flexibility is crucial. Store brands are often manufactured in the same facilities as name brands anyway, but they cost significantly less. Swapping expensive beef for chicken thighs, ground turkey, or plant-based proteins can save hundreds annually. Frozen vegetables maintain nutritional value while costing less than fresh when prices spike. Stock up during sales on non-perishables like coffee and canned goods. Price volatility works both ways, so hit promotional pricing hard when it appears. Shopping multiple stores during one trip might seem like extra work, but families are saving significant money by cherry-picking the best deals. Apps that compare prices across stores can help optimize your route and purchases. Here's something encouraging. Despite all this chaos, 77% of shoppers still say they feel in control of their grocery costs. That tells me we're resilient, adaptive, and not giving up. We're learning, evolving, and finding ways to maintain our family's nutrition without breaking our budgets. The key is staying informed, planning ahead, and not panicking. These price increases are real and challenging, but they're not permanent disasters. Markets eventually adjust, alternative sources emerge, and smart consumers find ways to adapt. Stay vigilant, shop strategically, and remember that knowledge is your best defense against budget-busting surprises. The families that prepare and adapt will weather this storm much better than those caught off guard. If this breakdown helped you prepare for what's coming, show some love with a like and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future money-saving insights. What's the craziest price increase you've noticed lately? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one and learned from your experiences too. Until next time, shop smart and stay strong.